Are you up for a detective challenge? Then grab a pen and a piece of paper. Each correct answer will give you 1 point. You'll find the results at the end of the video. Aaron has just become a detective and already got his first real case. He has to work undercover at a luxurious resort. The police suspect that the hotel owners are involved in some shady deals. Aaron's first task is to sneak into the manager's office and check his documents. But the door is locked, and there's a combination lock. Aaron has to figure out the password. The young detective knows he needs to solve a math riddle, and the answer will be the code. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, 1 + 1 times 0 + 1 equals... As soon as he punches in the code, the door opens. What is the correct number? It's 30. There are no mathematical symbols at the end of the first and second lines. It means the whole thing looks like this. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 1 + 1 times 0 + 1 equals 30. Aaron manages to get into the office and look through the papers, but he doesn't find anything useful there. While the detective was busy, one guest discovered her diamond ring and earrings were missing. Someone must have stolen the jewelry. Aaron has 3 suspects: Walter, another guest, Alice, a maid, and Alan, a porter. The undercover detective decides to check their rooms. He can't spend much time there, but what he sees is enough for him to understand who the thief is. Can you figure it out? It's Alice. There's already a packed suitcase in her room. She's about to run away with the stolen jewelry. Another day, another problem. This time, someone pushed elderly Mrs. Stevenson into the swimming pool when there was no one around. But this someone didn't know the lady was once the best swimmer of her university, and she never stopped practicing. And it wasn't difficult for her to cross the swimming pool and get out of it at the other side. Aaron asked the lady if she had seen the attacker. She didn't, but she was sure it was someone who knew she'd just received a huge inheritance. The detective needed to talk to 3 people. There were Mrs. Stevenson's son, Terry, her granddaughter, Gloria, and her niece, Judy. Terry said, "These days I've been very busy. Something urgent came up at work. I don't even have time to leave my room to go to breakfast or dinner." Gloria asked Aaron to keep her secret. She was seeing a waiter she'd met at a beach cafe. If her relatives found out, they would be furious. And Judy told Aaron she'd taken a car to go shopping to the city center. Who is lying? Terry. The man looks sunburned. How can it be if he hasn't left his room for days? Aaron suspected one guest was involved in the newest criminal scheme of the hotel owners. He started to follow the man, watching his every step. At night, the detective would climb the tree growing next to the man's room and check if he was doing something fishy. One night, he saw the man tossing and turning in his bed for hours. He must be up to no good, Aaron thought. As if on cue, the man picked up the receiver, dialed some number, waited for a while, and hung up without saying a word. Soon after that, he fell asleep. What was the whole thing about? Someone was snoring loudly in the room next to his, but the phone ringing woke up the person who was snoring, and the man finally managed to fall asleep. Finally, our undercover detective seems to be on the right track. A rich businessman, Mr. Wilson, disappeared from his room. It was rumored he'd come to buy the resort from the current owners. The police questioned 4 suspects and shared this information with Aaron. The businessman's assistant said, "I felt unwell on our way here. I went to my room, and as soon as we arrived, took some medicine, and fell asleep immediately." The hotel owner said, "We agreed to meet with Mr. Wilson in a conference room, but I got lost while trying to find him. I finally came there, but Mr. Wilson never showed up." Mr. Wilson's wife, who accompanied him on his trip, said, "My husband was going to meet with the hotel owner. I'm not interested in business, so I went to the spa." Who is behind the businessman's disappearance? The hotel owner. How could he get lost in his own hotel? Ethan put a coin into an empty bottle and plugged it tightly with a cork. Then he told his friend he'd remove the coin without breaking the bottle or taking out the cork. And he did it. How? Ethan pushed the cork into the bottle and shook it to make the coin fall out. Jack was about to fail his exam. Luckily, the professor gave him one last chance. The guy had to arrange 4 nines to make them equal 100. He could use any math symbols. How did he do it? Jack figured out the correct answer pretty fast. 99 plus 9 out of 9 equals 100. Christina was dreaming of dating a rich boy from her college. After doing some research, she settled on 3 guys. All of them were nice and interested in her. But the girl needed the richest. Once she saw them having lunch together. After checking what each of them was eating, Christina made her choice. Which guy did she pick? The guy who's eating seafood and avocado. Not only are these products the most expensive, but they're also the healthiest. When do you look at number 2 and say 10? It happens when you look at your wristwatch. You're given 8 eggs. You need to break 2, cook 2, and eat 2. How many eggs will you have in the end? You can break, cook, and eat 2 eggs. It'll leave you with 6 eggs. Julia was angry with her boyfriend. She sent a message to her best friend who lived in Switzerland. In this message, the girl complained about something the guy had done, but her friend sent her a very strange reply. Give, get. Give, get. Give, get. Give, get. What did Julia's friend mean? She wanted to say that Julia should forgive and forget. You're walking through the forest. Suddenly, you see a crossroad and a man standing there. One road leads to the village where criminals live, and the other to a safe place. You don't know whether you could trust this person. You can ask him one question. If the man is a criminal, he'll lie. If he's from the safe place, he'll tell you the truth. Which question should you ask? Where is your village? If the person is innocent, he'll send you to the safe place. If he's a criminal, he'll lie and point to the safe place too. It was Mr. and Mrs. Anderson's wedding anniversary, and everyone was getting ready for the party. Mrs. Anderson wanted to put on a diamond bracelet her husband gave her for their wedding. When she opened her jewelry box, she didn't see the bracelet. Trying not to panic, the woman called her teenage daughters, Joan and Andrea. I've told you 1,000 times not to touch my things, and still, one of you has taken my jewelry again. Joan shouted, I haven't touched your jewelry box. Andrea also denied taking her mom's stuff. Why would I need your bracelet? I've got lots of my own. Which girl is lying? It was Andrea who took the earrings. Mrs. Anderson didn't specify which piece of jewelry was missing. Then how did the girl know it was a bracelet? Can you figure out the answer to this rebus riddle? Mary plus Mary. The answer is summary. 1 out of 9 identical balls is heavier than the others. How can you figure out which one it is after only 2 weighings? You should divide all the balls into 3 groups and weigh 2 of them. That's how you can figure out which group contains the heavy ball. After that, you should pick 2 balls from the heaviest group, weigh one of them with the other, and you'll understand which ball of the 3 is the heaviest. And now, the best part, your results. If you got 0 to 5 points, it might be too early to try on your Sherlock's hat. Practice more, pay attention to details, and you'll get there. If your score is 5 to 10 points, you're probably ready to apply for a detective's assistant position. And then, with some more experience, you might even replace your boss one day. And if you got 11 to 15 points, you can easily open your own detective agency. You have a sharp eye for details and amazing logical skills. You go to a swimming pool once a week, and today's the day, but everything suddenly goes wrong. As soon as you enter the swimming pool, you look at the TV in the hall. Breaking news! Someone spotted a zombie in town. They probably went downtown, and they may be anywhere. If you see one, call the police immediately. You think it's probably safer to stay in the swimming pool. Zombies are slow and probably aren't good at swimming. So you go to the shower to change, but as soon as you enter the shower room, you notice that something's off. Who's a zombie? The 2 girls seem completely fine, but there's a bandage on the man's leg. No one would go to a swimming pool if they had cuts or scratches, unless they're a zombie. Once upon a time, there was a wealthy king who hired an artist to paint his portrait. The artist told the king that he wanted to be paid in gold, and he wanted to get paid every day. He also said it would take him 7 days to finish the painting. The wealthy king had only large bars of gold, and he wanted to give 1 bar for his work. But since the artist wanted to get paid daily, he needed to come up with a plan. He had a magic tool that could cut any material, but it was able to make only 2 cuts. How did the king split the gold bar so that the artist got his gold every single day in equal amounts? The king was really smart, so he cut the bars this way: 1/7, 2/7, and 4/7. The first day, he gave the artist 1/7 of the gold bar. The second day, he gave him 2/7, but took 1/7 back as change. The third day, he gave 1/7 back. The fourth day, he gave 4/7, but took the other 2 pieces back as change. The fifth day, he gave 1/7, so the artist got 5/7 of the bar. The sixth day, he gave 2/7, but took 1/7 back again. And the very last day, the artist got 1/7, so in the end, he had a full bar of gold. 4 friends, Josh, Maggie, Jason, and Rosie, were walking in the woods. It was a wonderful day, and they were about to start a picnic. But all of a sudden, the sun turned to black and they saw dozens of zombies approaching them. The friends started running away and saw a tunnel. It was dark and scary, but the guys knew exactly that when they crossed it, they'd be safe. They had only 12 minutes to cross the tunnel. It takes Josh 1 minute to cross it. Jason can do it in 2 minutes. Maggie thinks it will take her 4 minutes, and Rosie can cross it in 5 minutes. Not to risk it, the guys decided to split into 2 groups. The problem is that they only have 1 torchlight, and there's no way they go there in 4. How can they escape? First, Josh and Jason should cross it with a torchlight while the girls are waiting on the other side. It takes 2 minutes, plus 1 minute for Josh to go back. They still have 9 minutes. Josh hands the torchlight to the girls, and they cross the tunnel in 5 minutes. 4 minutes left. When the girls are on the other side, they give the torchlight to Jason, who comes back to take Josh in 2 minutes, and they run back together in another 2 minutes. The airport security had an emergency alert. There's a man with fake documents trying to fly away from New York. They had 3 suspects who look almost the same. Which passport is fake? No matter what country a person is from, no passport can have a photo with mountains in the background. All backgrounds should be solid. John's passport has a suspicious photo in it. His documents are fake. Mason is a lifeguard. One day, a girl came up to him asking for help. She said someone had stolen her wallet, which she noticed when she was going to go and grab a soda pop. Mason checked the towel where the girl left her stuff, but the only thing he noticed were her own footprints. Is this girl lying to Mason? The girl was telling the truth. Mason had an eagle eye, and he saw a guy with a fishing rod. He must have stolen the girl's wallet. No one wants to go fish in the public beach. Robbers stole a few precious gems the other day. The police were alerted immediately, but they didn't know where to look for the thieves. Suddenly, they got an anonymous email. Check all the bottles in the cars leaving the town. Best regards, Mr. X. At the end of the day, the officers stopped a car loaded with boxes and bottled water. The bottle bottoms were all covered with paint, so they thought the gems should be in one of them. The level of water was the same in all the bottles, but when one of the officers placed one of them right next to the box, he instantly realized something was off. What was it? The bottle standing next to the box is much lower than those still inside. The police then found there was a double bottom and the gems were hidden right underneath it. Two friends, Martin and Clyde, had a bet. Martin said he would throw a ball and it would come back to him. He also said there would be no obstacle or wall the ball could ricochet from. Clyde said it was impossible, and he lost. How's that? Martin threw the ball straight up. It obviously came back to him. No magic, just physics. Emily grabbed a really nice muffin at the cafeteria and put it on the office desk. She wanted to save it for later, but when she came back from the meeting, she saw someone had eaten her muffin. There were only 3 people who could do that, and only one person is telling the truth. Grace said it was Alicia. Alicia said she didn't eat anything. Tina says she didn't eat anything either. Who ate the muffin? It was Tina. Only one person is telling the truth, and it's Alicia. If Grace or Tina told the truth, then there would be 2 truthful people, but Emily knew only one person wasn't lying. Patrick really wanted to come to a private party, but the security would ask each person if they knew the secret access code. Patrick decided to overhear their conversations. When the person came up to the entrance, the security said 6, and the guest said 3. Then the security said 10 to the second visitor, and the reply was 3 as well. The third visitor also said 3, but the security said 2. Patrick thought he was ready to join the best party in town. When he came up to the entrance, the guard said 7, and Patrick replied 3. The security didn't let him in. What should Patrick have said to get into that fancy party? He should have said 5. The guest needed to count letters. 6, 10, and 2 have 3 letters. That's why the answer was 3. In the word 7, there are 5 letters. Ben loved diamonds. For some time, he would spend $5,000 a day on precious stones. At some point, he realized he had too many gems, so he started selling them at $3,000 a piece. Sometime later, he became a millionaire. How is that possible if he was obviously losing money? Before his gem rush, Ben used to be a billionaire. Since he started losing money, he became only a millionaire. A vampire moved to a big city where nobody knew him to start a brand new life. Still, he just couldn't help it and started biting locals every single night. People got scared and invited a private investigator to solve the problem. A couple of days later, Detective Reitman had 3 suspects. He decided to visit each of them to find out who the vampire was. After visiting all the houses, he was sure he found the vampire. Who was it? Well, the man on the left has loads of garlic in the kitchen, and vampires are scared of it. The second suspect had a lot of silver-plated accessories, earrings, piercings, and a chain. Vampires don't really like silver. The guy in the blue shirt is a vampire. Long ago, in the kingdom of riddles, a criminal was caught. The guards took him to the king, who was famous for loving riddles. King Archibald said that if Harry, the criminal, managed to solve his riddle, he would set him free. Harry agreed, and Archibald drew a 2-foot line on the ground with his foot. The king asked Harry to make this line 2 times shorter without touching it. In the end, Harry was free. What did he do? Harry drew a 4-foot line with his foot so that the one the king drew got 2 times shorter. Karen took part in a TV quiz where she could win 1 pound of pure gold. This quiz wasn't like ordinary ones. At the end of the show, the host brought her 3 large jars. Each of them has 1 pound of pure gold inside, plus some unpleasant surprise. The first jar has venomous snakes inside, the second one is full of acid, and the third one is filled with boiling hot water. Karen can only use her hands to get the gold out of the jars. She has 30 minutes to think. Which one should she choose? Karen should choose the one with hot water. It cools down pretty fast, and it's gonna get lukewarm in half an hour. Guess who's rich now?
Wow. While working late at night in a top-secret laboratory, Michael finally managed to create the DNA of a hybrid monstrous creature. After all that hard work, he decided to grab a quick coffee and donut as a little reward. But he came back and saw that the specimen had disappeared from the incubator. Michael lined up Ryan, Jeff, and Laura and confronted them. Who took an important top-secret piece of research I was working on? Ryan said he'd been busy doing some additional research on a separate project and had no idea what was going on. Jeff said he hadn't touched the hybrid creature and had been in the archives digging through some files he needed. And Laura said she'd been in the bathroom the whole time. So, who took the specimen? Michael never mentioned that he was dealing with a hybrid monstrous creature. Jeff just let himself get caught. Better think smart next time. Anne absolutely loathes winter, but just like anyone else, she has to go out and do stuff. She had just moved to a snowy city for work and experiences some of the coldest winters. But she managed to make it to the mall to do some quick shopping through a huge blizzard. When she came back to her parked car, she discovered that someone broke into it and took her belongings. When the police lined up the 3 suspects, they each gave their stories. Francesca said she had been polishing her car outside and didn't know anything. Ned said he'd been shopping for clothes, and Earl said he'd been sitting in a cafe on the upper floor of the mall. The police arrested the suspect. Who was it? Francesca. She was polishing her car outside in the middle of a blizzard? That's not only illogical, but not safe either. She just gave herself away. You wake up and find yourself trapped in a room with 4 doors in front of you. You don't have enough time to choose which door leads to freedom. You hear a monster coming, so you check out the doors quickly. The leftmost door has a sign on it saying, "Take the door on the right to break free." The second door also has a sign saying, "It's the right door." The third door has a sign, "Freedom is just right in front of you." And the last door has a sign, "Don't trust the signs." Which door should you choose? The last door. It says not to trust the signs, but it doesn't mean that they're lying. The first door says to take the door on the right. Not necessarily the last door on the right, but just the one on the right. The second one says, it's the right door. Not the correct door, but the right door, as in the door on the right. The third door says freedom is just right in front of you. That just doesn't make any sense, does it? So it's the last door on the right that leads to freedom. Mason was extremely happy when he got the news that his sister Jade was coming to town. He had just started a new job and couldn't wait to host her for the first time. She was only able to see some nice pictures of the places he visited, including where he lived. When he picked her up from the airport, he noticed something slightly off about her. She was robotic with her responses and seemed stiff with her movements. She wouldn't eat and only insisted that she wanted to rest up. Strange. Had he been watching too much sci-fi? After a while, Mason hears a knock on the door, and to his surprise, it's Jane. "But I thought…" Jane tells him that the Jane in his apartment is an impostor. When the Jane in the bedroom goes out and sees the other Jane sitting on the couch, they're both in shock. They both try to convince Mason that they're the real Jane. But who will Mason believe? It's pretty normal to come back from a trip pretty tired and wanting to rest. But how did the second Jane know where Mason lived without prior knowledge? And she didn't even break a sweat running up to the apartment. On a nice day, Vivian, who lived in a town on the seashore, decided to go for a hike alone. But after hours of trekking, she ended up on a section of the forest she wasn't familiar with. Before her were 3 paths. One path had bare footprints leading away. Another had human shoe prints, and the third was right by the river. Which one should Vivian take to find her way? The river path. Since she lives in a coastal town, the river mouth most likely ends up in the sea. That way, she could figure out where she is. Melissa is sharing a train car with 3 other people. It's a very hot day and the air conditioner doesn't even work. James starts complaining and only calms down after opening the window. Melissa lays down her red silk scarf her grandmother gave her next to her. Judith compliments it. Robert, a senior, mentions that he forgot to bring a gift for his wife who will pick him up from the train station. James has a crush on Judith. After a while, Melissa goes to the bathroom and comes back to find the scarf missing. Who was the one who took it? None of them. It was a hot day and James opened the window. The wind sent the scarf flying right out of it. Some zombies have Diego trapped in a room. They're surrounding him. He's stuck and can't escape. Their arms are breaking in and reaching for him. When Diego looks around, he realizes that he's in a small newspaper stand with magazines and pocketbooks. And looking around him more attentively, he finds a roll of tape nearby. How can he avoid those nasty bites? The only way for Diego to escape will be to tape those magazines around crucial parts of his body where they can't lay his teeth on him. It'll be light enough for him to run away from the zombies without getting hurt. Plus, he'll have plenty of reading material for the road. Evan got lost in a forest, and just his luck, it was snowing. The only thing the police searching for him found were 4 parallel lines leading into the forest. Something doesn't seem right, they thought, and took several people into questioning. Nick said he had been at the store buying some groceries. Vanessa said she had been babysitting. Christina had been at work the whole time. After hearing the stories, they arrested Nick. Why? Nick was in a wheelchair. The 4 parallel lines were left by Nick rolling into the forest and back out. It's the beginning of a new school year, and Dave started a new job as a computer studies teacher at a local high school. Another fellow teacher, Roy, didn't really welcome him because he wanted that position. But at the end of the day, there was a security breach which leaked out a lot of important information about the school. When the police questioned everyone, including Roy and Dave, they each gave their stories. Dave said, "I was checking exam papers and was at the staff room the whole time." Roy said, "I was preparing homework for my classes when everything happened." Who should the police arrest? Who was lying? Dave. There wouldn't be any exams on the first day of school. Gareth is in a pickle. He's at the police station looking at the lined-up suspects, one of whom stole Beth's bag while she was having a picnic in the park. He observes them. Beth describes the culprit as someone big, no hair, and wearing a black jacket. All the men lined up matched the description. Gareth looks at each of them, and they all have one distinct trait that makes them stand out from each other. Suspect number 1 has a beard. Number 2 is wearing shorts. And number 3 is wearing glasses. Gareth knows immediately who to arrest. Who is it? Suspect number 1 has dirt all over his boots. The rest are all clean. He ran through the mud tracks while Beth was having a picnic. Yep, the police found out that several criminals were going to leave the country by plane. Unfortunately, no one knew what they looked like or how big the group was. 4 suspicious men were detained and their baggage was examined. Can you figure out who is innocent? Why would a bald man need a shampoo? A supposedly blind person with a flashlight? Toothpaste without a toothbrush? It seems only the man on the left isn't a criminal. Anne invited her friends to spend a week in her house. The young people were having tons of fun. The day before they had to leave, a terrible storm started. It was pouring with rain. Strong winds were breaking trees, tearing down power lines, and causing power outages all over the place. The next morning, the weather was better, but Anne discovered that her favorite ring, with a diamond her granny had left her many years ago, was missing. She asked all her friends to come to the living room. "I can't find one thing that's very important to me. Can you tell me what you were doing yesterday?" Megan answered she spent most of the whole day in her room reading. Walter said, "I was practicing my electric guitar in the garage." Marie told Anne she didn't even know what the ring looked like. Anne knew right away who the thief was. Can you figure it out too? There was a power outage. It means Walter couldn't be playing an electric guitar. And Anne said nothing about the important thing being a ring. So how did Marie know it? Walter and Marie stole the ring together. A jewelry store manager called the police. "Help!" he shouted. "My store has been robbed!" When the officers arrived at the place, they couldn't see the man. Suddenly, they heard someone banging on the door. They didn't notice this door at first because it was hidden in the corner. When they unlocked it, they saw a man. It was the manager. "Someone locked me in here. It must be one of the shop assistants." The police officers asked the man to call his employees. They were going to question them. "Just a second, I can't find my phone." "Ah, here it is." The manager didn't even start to dial the number before the officers arrested him. Why? If he was locked in the room and the phone was lying on the counter, how could he call the police? Police Detective Thomas Davis was walking along the street on a winter evening. Suddenly, he saw a person in a black mask sneaking out of a house through the window. They were carrying 2 large bags. The detective realized it was a burglar. He ran after the stranger, but they turned the corner and disappeared. Thomas understood the criminal had hidden in one of these houses. But which one? It can't be the house on the left. There are too many people inside. There are no footprints in the snow leading to the house on the right. It means no one has been there for quite some time. Which leaves us with the house in the middle. Nathan sneaked out of the house late in the evening to meet his girlfriend. The teenager thought he was extremely careful and quiet, but his whole family knew about his plan. They were aware the guy would return at midnight. They decided to make a bet. The one who would see Nathan first when the guy started climbing the fence would be the winner. No chores for them for 1 week. Not to fall asleep, Nathan's dad switched on the TV. The teen's grandfather settled in the living room to read a book. The grandmother went to the kitchen to make pizza. And Nathan's mom went to her room, sat down on the floor, and started to meditate. Who's going to be the first to spot Nathan when the time comes? Nathan's mom. Her eyes will be used to the darkness, and she will see better than the others. A family with 2 teenage children went on vacation to the seaside. They lived in a small bungalow almost right on the beach. Everything was great at first, but 2 days after their arrival, the younger son went missing. The police had 4 suspects. They invited the guy's family to look at them. Maybe they could recognize someone. The teenager's mother didn't need more than a glance before she knew who was behind her son's disappearance. Who was it? It's the man wearing the missing guy's baseball cap. Carl, an heir to a giant fortune, was found unconscious during a wild party. His sister, Sarah, stumbled across him in the bathroom. The guy was lying on the floor, barely alive. Sarah immediately called the ambulance and police. Carl was taken to a hospital. Doctors saved his life, but the guy was still unconscious. He couldn't talk. When the police questioned Sarah, she told them that her brother had felt unwell. He went to the bathroom to freshen up. After some time, she heard some noise and went to check on him. Carl must have slipped and hit his head on the sink. After the police officers heard this story, the sister got arrested right away. Why? For one thing, it happened during a loud party. How could the girl hear any suspicious noise? Carl was also lying too far away from the sink, which was on the other side of the bathroom. Boy, with a sister like that. Look at this picture and try to figure out who is from the future. Well, I'm pretty sure there were no flashlights in the Stone Age. All the people working in the office, Janice, Brian, Teresa, Sean, and Roy, used the fridge in the kitchen to store their lunch. On Friday, Janice opened the fridge to get her bacon and cheese sandwich she brought from home. But it wasn't there. Someone had eaten her lunch. Who was it? Well, it couldn't be Brian. There's a wet umbrella near his desk. He has just come in. Teresa is a vegan. She eats neither cheese nor bacon. Roy is on a diet, and such a sandwich is by no means light food. This means Sean was the one who stole Janice's sandwich. You bad boy. When Joe came to work, he saw his safe was open. All the money and important documents were gone. He immediately called his friend, Detective Callum. When the man arrived, Joe told him, "I think it was one of my employees. They must have borrowed my key and opened the safe." Callum questioned the 3 people who worked for Joe. Wayne said, "I don't even know what the safe looks like. And of course, I don't know which key opens it." Austin said, "I'm Joe's assistant. I do have the second key to the safe, but I was on holiday and just returned." And Julia just said, "I can't prove it, but I didn't do it." Who's lying? Wayne. No one told him the safe could be opened with a key, not a combination lock. Then, how did he know? Someone stole several expensive t-shirts in a designer clothing store. The manager told the security guard he had half an hour to find the thief. "If you don't make it in time, you'll be fired." The guard rushed to watch the CCTV footage. Luckily, he managed to figure out who the thief was before his time ran out. And do you know who it was? That's the man in the dark blue sweater. His belly miraculously became larger after he spent some time in the store. He must be hiding the t-shirts under his sweater. Look at this picture and try to understand what's wrong here. The reflection in the mirror is all wrong. Terry was sailing around the world when his yacht got caught in a terrible storm. At one moment, the guy hit his head against the mast and lost consciousness. When he came around, he was on a beach. Unfriendly-looking locals had gathered around. Soon, Terry figured out they really didn't like strangers. They offered the guy 3 options: to send him to a cave filled with tarantulas, throw him into a pit swarming with yellow scorpions, or make him meet hungry lions. What should Terry choose to survive? He should opt for tarantulas. These creatures look terrifying, but they are mostly harmless to humans. Mostly. Captain Jack was a feared pirate who had robbed thousands of ships. He did it with the help of just one small trick. It allowed him to approach any ship from any country close enough to board it. What was this trick? Captain Jack had a collection of flags from different countries. Instead of using Jolly Roger, the fearsome black flag, he raised the flag of the country the ship was from. It got him immediate access. In what situation do you have more chances to survive? If you're falling from a 10-story building, or if you come across several scary snakes that look unfriendly? The snakes might not be venomous, then they won't cause you any harm. But if you're falling from a big height, well, only a miracle can… Nah, nothing's gonna save you. Bye-bye. Hey, meet Callum, the world's best detective. You ready for a ride-along? Let's go. It was a rainy and gloomy day, and Detective Callum was having a snack in his office. Suddenly, a woman burst in and asked for help. She said she had hung her laundry outside to dry, then gone back in the house to watch some TV. When she went back out, her favorite dress was gone. She suspected her neighbor, Jane. She was always jealous of that dress. She even wanted Jane arrested. Detective Callum wasn't impressed. He said she had just made up the whole story. How did he know? It was a rainy day. Who'd be silly enough to hang their laundry up outside? There was a speedy thief in town who ran so fast that no one could catch her. After a lucky tip-off, the police saw a woman climb in through a store window. They surrounded the store. Inside were 3 women. Detective Callum was called in to interrogate them and identify the thief. When the detective arrived, he didn't even need to ask a single question. He knew exactly who the thief was. Which one was it? It was the 3rd woman. These 2 are wearing heels. They wouldn't be able to run in those things. The 3rd woman is wearing sneakers. A downtown bank was robbed. There were 2 criminals, but police could only catch one of them, Bill. Bill refused to say who his accomplice was, but the police had already rounded up 3 suspects: Harry, George, and Ben. They called up their trusty friend, Detective Callum. The detective only needed 5 seconds to crack the case. I'll give you 7. It's Ben. Look, he has the exact same tattoo as Bill. Several women had gone missing recently, and even though it was a small town, police just couldn't catch a break. No clues for months. One day, Callum spotted the kidnapper going into a small abandoned shed. When he burst in, he found himself looking at 3 women. They all said they were locked in this small room and hadn't been out in months. But Callum knew one of them must be the kidnapper who was just pretending to be a victim. The first woman said her name was Genesis. She had been there about 8 months. The second woman, Tatum, said she had been there about 6. The third woman, Chloe, said she'd only been locked up for about 2 months. The detective knew exactly who the kidnapper was. Do you? It's Tatum. Look at her nails. She has a fresh manicure. 6 months? Yeah, right. The owner of an ice cream parlor filed a theft report. Someone stole all the money from the register. He was only gone for like 2 minutes. Detective Callum showed up 20 minutes later. There were 3 people inside. Ainsley said she had been talking on the phone with her friend. She hadn't seen anything. Rhett said he just arrived a couple of minutes ago. Joshua said he wasn't really paying attention. He didn't notice anything. So, can you figure out who's lying? Who stole the money? Rhett said he had just arrived, but his ice cream's already melted. Liar. Phoenix wanted to get her dad the best birthday present ever, but she didn't know what he wanted. She decided to break into his laptop to see what he had saved in his online shopping cart. One problem, the laptop required a password, and Phoenix didn't know it. Luckily, there was a note next to it. She sent a picture of it to her friend, Detective Callum. He solved it right away. Can you? The note doesn't make sense because it's upside down. Flip it over and you'll see a sequence of numbers 88, 89, 90, 91. The numbers before it are 86 and 87. So the password is 8687. Detective Callum traveled to a small neighboring city where young women were being kidnapped every day. 4 had already gone missing. They all lived on the same street. Their names were Ava, Bella, Celeste, and Daphne. There were only 3 women left on the street: Ava, Riley, and Georgia. Callum had to act fast. Who would be the next target? The women are getting kidnapped in alphabetical order: A, B, C, D. The next target will be Ava. Mr. Coleman's mansion was robbed while he was on vacation. He immediately called Detective Callum. Everyone who had been to the house got interrogated. Sydney, his sister, said she'd gone to the house a couple of times to find some papers on Mr. Coleman's desk. Samantha, the gardener, said she'd come every week to water the plants. Asher, the cleaner, said he'd come every Friday to clean the house. Callum found all 3 of their fingerprints on Mr. Coleman's desk. He now knew exactly who the robber was. Who? It was Samantha, the gardener. Sydney and Asher had a reason to touch the desk, but Samantha wasn't even supposed to be in Mr. Coleman's office. There aren't any plants in there. A rich woman was robbed on her private yacht during a ferocious storm. A witness said they saw Kai watching the woman right before she was robbed. Kai denied everything and said he was in his cabin at the time, writing a letter to his wife. Detective Callum asked to see the letter. 5 seconds after Kai handed it to him, Detective Callum put him in handcuffs. Why? Kai said he wrote the letter during the storm. There's no way his writing could be this neat when the entire yacht was swaying around like crazy. Logan, a young businessman, was poisoned in his house. Detective Callum was on the scene. Pretty soon he had 3 suspects. Logan's girlfriend, Michaela. She said she hadn't seen him that day because she was busy at work. Next, there was his business partner, Rob. Rob said they'd had an argument and they both got pretty angry, but he hadn't poisoned Logan. The last suspect was Blair, the driver. She said she wouldn't know how to poison someone even if she wanted to. Who should Detective Callum arrest? Look, there's fresh lipstick on Logan's shirt. It matches Michaela's. But she said she hadn't seen him that day. Suspicious. Eloise found her friend Fleur poisoned in her room. She called Callum and told him she was walking past Fleur's house and noticed her light was on. She texted her, but Fleur didn't respond. She got really worried, so she broke a window, climbed in, and found her on the floor. But Detective Callum didn't believe her. He immediately arrested her for poisoning her friend. Why? Eloise said she broke a window to get in. If that was true, the broken glass should be inside the room, but it wasn't. Eloise had to cover her tracks, so she broke the glass later from the inside. A college student was robbed during a flag presentation. Detective Callum arrived to investigate the case and interrogated several suspects. Kennedy said that she was in the bathroom at the time. Gavin said he'd noticed that the Japanese flag was hanging upside down, so he'd gone over to fix it. Eleanor said that the student who was robbed was her best friend. She would never do that. Who's guilty? It's Gavin. He said that the Japanese flag was hanging upside down, but that flag looks the same either way. He's lying. Someone stole a diamond necklace at a private VIP party. The police followed the robber into a boutique store. There were 3 customers, and they didn't know who the robber was. So they called Detective Callum. Adele said she'd never even been to a VIP party. Those things are for wealthy and famous people. Joseph said he'd never even heard about the party. Florence said she'd been in the shop for the last half hour, trying to find that perfect accessory. Who should Detective Callum arrest? Adele. She's wearing a gold bracelet and earrings. Seems like she was just at a pretty fancy event. Maybe a VIP party? Detective Callum got word that some outer space species had landed on Earth. He had a special mission to spot the aliens and report the information. He walked into a cafe. Aha! I spotted one. Who did he suspect? It's that dark-haired guy. He has 6 fingers. Mr. Brown, a wealthy businessman, was robbed last night. Detective Callum arrived as soon as he could and questioned 3 of Mr. Brown's neighbors. Mrs. Jonas said she got back late last night and went straight to bed. Mr. Polson said he'd always wanted to see the ocean, so he went on vacation to Bolivia. He just got back about an hour ago. Mr. Tanner said he'd spent the whole day working in the garden and went to sleep around 8 p.m. Who did Detective Callum arrest? Mr. Polson. He said he went to Bolivia to see the ocean, but Bolivia isn't next to an ocean. Richard ran into his boss's office. Finn had just hit him in the bathroom for not helping him with his weekly sales presentation. But Finn denied it all. The boss called his golf partner, Detective Callum. He arrived, looked at Richard and Finn, and somehow knew that Richard had lied. How did he know? Richard's bruise is on the right side of his face. Finn is eating a sandwich and holding it in his right hand. He's right-handed. If Finn had really hit Richard, the bruise would be on the left side of his face. So Mia wanted to go to the party her classmate was throwing, but her father didn't let her. Mia thought for a while and remembered her grandparents had just moved to their new 1-story country house. She asked her dad if she could visit them at the weekend, and the man agreed. But Mia went to the party instead. When she got back home after the weekend, her father asked her if she had had a good time. Mia replied she helped in the garden a little and spent the rest of the day upstairs. Her father immediately knew she was lying. How? Mia said she'd been upstairs, but her grandparents' house is a one-story cottage. Liar, liar, pants on fire. 11 plus 3 equals 2. 10 plus 5 equals 3. Now how is that possible? It makes sense when we talk about time. 11 o'clock plus 3 hours is 2 o'clock. 10 o'clock plus 5 hours is 3 o'clock. One king wants to find out which of his 3 sons is the smartest. He takes 3 chests and puts his crown in one of them. On each chest there's a statement, but only one of these statements is true. The crown is in this chest. The crown isn't in this chest. The crown isn't in chest number 1. Each person can only open one chest. The son who figures out where the crown is will be the next king. But can you solve this riddle? If the first statement is true, the other 2 must be false. It's not so because the second statement turns out to be correct, so this assumption's wrong. If the second statement is true, the crown isn't in the first chest. It's not in the second chest either. Then it must be in the third one. But this makes the third statement correct, although it shouldn't be. If the third statement is true, the first one's wrong and there's no crown in the first chest. The second statement's also wrong. Now, there are no contradictions. The crown's in the second chest. Here's a sequence of letters. Which letter should you add? The missing letter is F. If you put it at the end, you'll get E. James and Taylor were best friends in elementary school. Unfortunately, when the children were 10, James and his parents moved to another state. The friends lost contact. 15 years later, James and Taylor accidentally bumped into each other in a cafe. It was their first meeting since school. They recognized each other and started talking. It turned out Taylor was already married and had a daughter. "Wow," said James, "does she look like her dad?" "Oh no," Taylor said, "the girl's a mini version of her mother." "Ah, so she must be a blonde with blue eyes." This time, James was right. How did he understand that? Taylor's a girl. She's the mother, and James only needed to describe her. You're outside a room with 3 switches in the off position. Your task is to find out which one turns on the light in the room. You can flip as many switches as you want, but you can walk into the room and check if the light's on only once. How can you understand which switch controls the light bulb? Turn on 2 random switches and wait for a couple of minutes. Then, turn one of them off and walk into the room. If the light's on, the switch connected to the bulb is the one you left in the on position. If the room's dark, touch the light bulb. If it's hot, then the controlling switch is the one you just turned off. If the light bulb is cold, the correct switch is the only one you haven't touched. Esme got lost in the forest. She was wandering around for the whole day. Finally, at dusk, she saw a spooky house. A witch lived there. The girl had nowhere else to go, so she entered the house and asked for help. The witch said if Esme solved her riddle, she'd be free to leave in the morning. Here's how the riddle went. 17J, 70M, 96A, 162J, 256S, 354, What's the missing letter? The 17th day of the year is in January. The 70th day of the year is in March. The 96th is in April. The 162nd in June. And the day 256 is in September. Day 354 is in December. The missing letter is D. A young girl got her first job as a maid in a rich lady's house. Once, when she was tidying up, she noticed a very expensive collection of books. She made a break to look through one of them and then returned it to the shelf. The girl kept working until the very evening. No one else was at home. After finishing her work, the maid returned to the shelf and discovered that the sixth book was missing. But she clearly remembered that the book had been there before. It was the one she had been looking through. When the lady returned, the girl confessed she'd lost the book. But the woman only laughed and said everything was fine. Nothing was missing. How come? The collection had 8 books. The 9th book was actually the 6th one. The girl accidentally put it upside down. Right before Christmas, the police got information that a famous thief named Alfonso had left Chile. He boarded the plane to Los Angeles. The only thing the detectives knew about the man was that he had a beard. At the airport, the police officers met a group of people. They had just arrived from different countries. The detectives noticed 4 men with beards and interrogated them. The first one said he'd come from London. The second told the police he arrived from Chile, but his name was Cristiano. The third man answered he'd come from Sweden, and the fourth one was also from London. The police didn't even need to check their plane tickets to spot the criminal. How did they know? It's Christmas time, but the man who supposedly came from Sweden is dressed too lightly for that climate. He must have arrived from Chile, where it's summer. A road accident happened on a foggy day. 2 drivers were taken to a hospital. Each of them had a concussion. Interestingly, their cars didn't even have a scratch. What happened? The drivers were going in opposite directions. It was foggy, so they stuck their heads out of the window. They didn't notice each other and hit their heads. Ow! Samantha was born on January 27th. For the first 20 years of her life, she celebrated her birthday in the winter. But starting with her 21st birthday, she began celebrating it in the summer. Why? She moved to the southern hemisphere, where it's summer in January. 2 sisters, Ava and Nicole, are very honest girls. They always tell the truth, except for one day a year. On their birthdays, they always lie. Today is September 17th, and you ask them when their birthdays are. Ava says hers was yesterday, and Nicole says her birthday is tomorrow. The next day, you ask them again, and they say the exact same thing. Can you guess when their birthdays are? They can't have 2 birthdays. It means that one day one of them lied, and the next day it was the other's turn. Since Ava mentioned yesterday, her birthday must come first. So Ava's birthday is on September 17th, and Nicole's on September 18th. Bethany, Tommy, Eliza, and James spent the whole day at home alone. Their mother didn't let them enter her room. When she came back in the evening, she wanted to eat her chocolate bar, but it was gone. She went downstairs and asked the kids who had eaten her treat. Bethany said she'd been doing her algebra homework the whole day and hadn't eaten anything at all. Tommy replied he had been playing football outside. Eliza said she didn't even know where their mom kept chocolate. And James simply claimed it hadn't been him. Their mom knew immediately who had taken her chocolate. How did she figure it out? It was Eliza. The mother never mentioned what kind of treat was missing, but Eliza somehow knew it was chocolate. The father of identical quadruplets, Aurora, Belle, Chloe, and Dana, called the teacher and asked her to let Dana leave earlier. She had a doctor's appointment. The teacher couldn't tell the girls apart. To have some fun, the quadruplets refused to confess who was who, but gave their teacher a hint. Chloe is somewhere in the middle. Dana is to the left of Belle and to the right of Aurora. Aurora is right next to Dana. How can the teacher identify the girls? Chloe is somewhere in the middle, and since Dana has someone on both sides of her, she must be in the middle too. If Chloe was the second, Dana would be the third. Then Dana would be to the left of Belle, and Belle would be the fourth. Then Aurora must be the first. But it doesn't work, because Aurora and Dana have to be next to each other. If we switch Chloe and Dana, Dana will be right next to Aurora, but still to the left of Belle. So the right order is Aurora, Dana, Chloe, and Belle. Dana's the second girl. Mark and Ben are waiting for the elevator. Mark has to go down to the first floor, and Ben's going to have some dinner up on the 10th. Two elevators arrive at the same time, and they both get in different elevators. Well, one of them isn't too smart. Which one? It's Ben. He needs to go up, but his elevator's going down. You're chilling watching TV when you hear the doorbell. You aren't expecting anyone, but you go to the door anyway and open it. There's no one there, just a basket of candies and a letter. The letter says, "Dear Charlie, thank you very much for your help. I really like you and wanted to ask if you want to go out sometime. All my love, always." There's no name on the letter and you have no clue who it could be from. Luckily, there's a short little riddle. 3rd of August, 4th of February, 2nd of May, 3rd of December, 6th of October. Can you crack the code and find out who your secret admirer is? The 3rd of August means the third letter in August, which is G. The fourth letter of February is R. The second letter of May is A. The third letter of December is C. And the sixth letter of October is E. So, your secret admirer's name is Grace. Do you even know anyone named Grace? You open your eyes and find yourself in a dungeon. There are a couple of torches around to light the room up a bit. You walk over to the door and try to open it. But, of course, it's locked. There's 3 buttons on the right side of the door, a red one, a purple one, and a yellow one. One of them will set you free, and the other 2 will lock you in forever. But you're lucky. There's a hint. NTEROWLUTPPB. Buy a vowel, will ya? Which button should you press to escape? If you put the letters in the right order, you'll get purple button. Since only one button opens the door and the other 2 trap you in, you gotta try your luck with the purple one. Jessie is a mom of 3 who works as a detective. She comes home late one night and goes right into the kitchen to get dinner ready. Waiting for her in there, a huge mess. Looks like someone already had their dinner, a chocolate pasta sandwich. She doesn't let her kids eat that kind of stuff. So she goes upstairs and rounds up all her kids. Katie, Serena, and Hannah are all busy doing their homework. They all deny eating chocolate pasta, but she still knows who it was. Who's lying, and how did Jessie know? Back in the kitchen, the knife's on the right-hand side of the chocolate pasta. That means the person who made the sandwich is left-handed. She has only one left-handed kid, and that's Hannah. You get lost in the forest, and you end up wandering around the whole day. Finally, at sunset, you come across a small and spooky house. Looks like a witch lives there. You have no other choice, so you go in and ask her to show you the way out of this crazy forest. The witch agrees, but on one condition: you have to play a game. If you answer correctly, she lets you go. If you make a mistake, you have to stay with her forever. Here's the question. You have something that's yours. You barely use it, but others use it a lot. What is it? It's your name. You're abroad, enjoying the sun and a much-needed vacation. One day at the beach, you meet a beautiful woman and spend the whole day with her. In the evening, you ask her if you can meet again tomorrow. She smiles and says yes, if you can guess where she comes from. But she really likes you, so she gives you a hint. The place I'm from is 2 of Armenia, 1 of Germany, 2 of England, 1 of Turkey, 2 of India, and 1 of Australia. Can you guess where she's from? Two of Armenia means you have to take the first 2 letters of the name Armenia, A-R. The rest are the same. 1 of Germany is G, 2 of England is E-N, 1 of Turkey is T, I-N from India, and A from Australia. Together, they make Argentina. That was a lot of work. She better be worth it. You're wandering in a different forest and you come across a picnic. They're all witches. You try to hide before they notice you, but uh-oh. What do they want? Actually, they're pretty chill. They just need a little help. There are 8 of them, and one of them celebrating her 999th birthday. They've got a birthday cake, but there's a problem. And no, it's not that there's too many candles and too little cake. Their magic knife can only make 3 cuts, and they can't figure out how to cut the cake into 8 pieces. Can you figure it out? First, cut the cake in half. Then make another cut so there are 4 equal pieces. Now, cut the cake sideways through the middle so it has 2 layers. Now, everybody gets a piece. Helena finally got herself a new guitar. She wanted to play it right away, but she had school. She locked it in her room and left. When she got home that evening, the guitar was gone. Her family was kind of fun. They were always pulling pranks on each other. She asked everyone about her guitar. Here's what they said. Her mom said she hadn't even seen the guitar. Her dad said he saw it when he walked past her room, but then he didn't go in because he had a lot of work to do. Her brother said he was at home, but spent the whole day downstairs. Helena solved the mystery instantly. Can you figure it out? Her dad's lying. He said he saw the guitar while walking past her room, but that would be impossible. She locked the door on her way out. Mrs. Miller left the house and put a $100 bill in the dining room for her son. But the son said he never saw the money. There were 3 other people in the house that morning: Stephen, the gardener, Bill, the cook, and Molly, the housemaid. Steve said he saw the money, but he's an honest man. He'd never take it. Bill said he spent the morning in the kitchen and didn't see the money at all. Molly said she had to open the kitchen window but didn't want the bill to fly away. So she put it in this book between pages 35 and 36. Can you tell who's lying? Molly is. She couldn't have put the money between pages 35 and 36. They're 2 sides of the same page. Kevin's a single father of 4. He was working late one evening and got a call from a neighbor. The neighbor just saw one of his daughters walking around with her friends in a totally different neighborhood. It was dark, so the neighbor couldn't tell which daughter it was. When Kevin came back home, he asked his daughters which one of them was out after dark. Lily said she was reading all evening. Madison said she was playing Uno. Riley said she was in the backyard in the pool. Ava said she was talking to a friend in her room. Kevin immediately knew who was lying. Do you? It was Madison. She couldn't have been playing Uno by herself. She's hiding something. Josh was walking in a forest at night and came across an old castle. He was curious, so he found a way in and started walking down a corridor. Pretty soon, he met 3 people. They said they were 2 werewolves and a vampire. They wanted to keep Josh in there forever, but in the end decided to give him one chance to get away. He had to guess who the vampire was. He was allowed to ask the same question to each of them as long as it wasn't, "Are you a vampire?" Josh asked, "What's your eye color?" Why did he ask it, and how would that even help him? Vampires don't have a reflection in the mirror and don't show up in photos. The vampire probably wouldn't know what color eyes it had. Bonus time! Can you think of any other question that Josh could have asked those 3 guys? How well do you know your vampires and werewolves? Private Detective Deborah was doing some shopping at the mall. Suddenly she heard people arguing. The woman went there and saw a stressed shop assistant and several people crowding him. The poor man had found a smartphone and made an announcement, and now several people claimed it was their phone. One man said the phone must have slipped from his bag. A young woman said the gadget belonged to her, and an older woman shouted it was her husband's device. That's when the phone rang. For some reason, the shop assistant handed it to Deborah. The woman glanced at the screen and immediately gave the phone to the man. How did she understand whose device it was? Deborah saw the word wife written on the screen. Emily has 2 glasses filled with water. In the first glass, the water is heated up to 100 degrees. In the second glass, the water is cooled down to minus 100 degrees. The girl drops 2 coins in the glasses at the same time. Which coin will reach the bottom faster? It'll be the coin in the glass with the warm water. The coin in the other glass won't sink at all. The water there is frozen. Jacob and his brother Jack were walking along the street. When they passed a grocery store, Jacob pointed at a young woman and exclaimed, "Oh, my niece is over there." His brother answered, "Oh, right, but it's not my niece." How come? The young woman is Jack's daughter. Ashley had a boyfriend, Mark, who is madly in love with her. Unfortunately, the woman didn't love him back. Once, she decided to leave him. Ashley knew Mark wouldn't let her go easily, so she ran away. But Mark was a very rich man and could find her almost anywhere. She had to be careful. 1 week later, Ashley was sitting in her hotel room when she heard a knock at the door. When the woman opened the door, she saw a man. She had never met him before. The stranger apologized. "Oops, I'm sorry, my bad. I was sure it was my room." He then turned around, went down the corridor, and disappeared in the elevator. Ashley rushed back into her room and started to pack her things. She instantly knew Mark had found her. How did she figure it out? No one will knock on their own hotel room door. It was Mark's man who was looking for her. The faster you run, the harder it is to catch this thing. What is it? It's your breath. David and his wife Jessica moved to another town. The place wasn't big. For the locals, new people coming to live there was a big deal. That's why, the next day, the couple's curious neighbors came to say hello. Karen introduced herself and said she was sure they'd become great friends. She had even cooked cupcakes for David and Jessica. Elderly Mrs. Latham told the newcomer she'd been living in the town for almost 80 years. Betty was extremely excited. A man's come to live in our small town. And so good-looking at that. Awesome news. Two of the neighbors seemed a bit creepy, and only one looked normal. Who was it? Karen had decorated her cupcakes with something that looked suspiciously like eyes. Betty is too enthusiastic about David. As for Mrs. Latham, she is sure to know lots of things about the town and its inhabitants. She can be a useful source of information, and she cooked them some soup. Brandon's wife told him to cook several eggs, but the man had to boil them for exactly 2 minutes. She left her husband 3 hourglass timers for 3, 4, and 5 minutes. How can the man boil the eggs for exactly 2 minutes? Brandon waited until the water started to boil. Then he turned over the 3 and 5 minute timers. When the 3-minute timer ran out, he dropped the eggs into the water. And when the 5-minute timer ran out, he had his perfectly boiled eggs. It was the first time Eric sailed his brand new yacht. But the man seemed to be out of luck that day. A bad storm sank the yacht, and Eric hardly had any time to make it to the surface. Half conscious, he ended up on some beach. In the morning, the man realized he was stranded on a tiny, uninhabited island. No radio, no cell phone, no means of communication whatsoever. And the island had no trees to make a smoke signal. On the third day, Eric noticed a small plane circling in the sky over the island. Were they searching for him? But the aircraft was flying too high, and the pilot couldn't see Eric. And still, the man did something, and soon he was picked up by a rescue helicopter. How did he attract the pilot's attention? Eric picked up some stones and used them to write SOS on the sand. Helen lives in Singapore with her husband Dennis. Once, she tells her husband she wants to visit her aunt who lives in Italy. Dennis doesn't mind, but he asks his wife to send him a photo as soon as she gets to Europe. When Helen lands in Rome, she sends Dennis a selfie. Under the picture, she writes, "Ciao from Italy, I've just arrived." After looking at the photo, Dennis realizes his wife lied to him. How did he know? In the picture, the clock on the wall shows exactly the same time as the clock in the kitchen, which is in Singapore. If Helen was in Rome, the clock would show a big time difference. One day, Christopher decided he had to develop his logical thinking skills. The guy found a tutor and started visiting him to have private lessons. But this teacher had one interesting habit. Closer to the end of each lesson, he always gave Christopher several riddles. The guy wasn't allowed to go home until he solved them. This Friday, the first riddle went like this. How can you make 6 into an odd number? Tricky. How? He removed the letter S and got IX. That's 9 in Roman numerals. But the guy knew it was just the beginning. The next riddle was even more difficult. It's thin, but when water splashes it, none seeps through. When hit, it changes color. It covers an incredibly complex thing, yet it's very easy to flex. What is it? At first, Christopher didn't have any idea. Duh, he'd have to stay and crack riddles till midnight. Luckily, in a moment, it dawned on him. It's the skin. Christopher's tutor was impressed with the guy's progress. Okay, he said, one more riddle and you can go home. 3 doctors said that Ryan was their brother, but Ryan claimed he didn't have any brothers. Who was lying? Christopher figured out right away that everyone was telling the truth. All the doctors were Ryan's sisters. Whew, he could finally go home. The morning after a heavy snowfall, Justin went outside and stopped in his tracks. He saw there was twice as much snow on top of his garage as there was on his neighbor's. Still, Justin didn't get surprised or upset. Why? Justin's garage is twice as big as his neighbor's. No wonder it also has twice as much snow. Amy went on holiday to the seaside and met 3 guys there. They were friends, but it didn't stop all of them from trying to impress the girl. In the evening, they all met in a restaurant to have dinner, and the guys started to tell Amy about their adventures. Sam boasted, "I'm a pilot, and I've already traveled all over the world." Larry said, "I once took part in an expedition to the North Pole. It was amazing. I saw penguins and polar bears." Jerry barged in, "And I'm an astronaut. When I was in space last time, I went on a spacewalk. I wanted to see our planet from above, but I was almost blown away by a strong wind." Who's lying to make a better impression? Both Larry and Jerry are lying. Penguins live near the South Pole, and there's no wind in outer space. It's an almost perfect vacuum. Andrew and Gary are twins. They were born just 1 minute apart, and Andrew is the elder of the two. But for some mysterious reason, they celebrate their birthdays 2 days apart once every several years. How is this possible? Andrew was born at 11:59 p.m. on February 28. It wasn't a leap year. So Gary, who appeared just 1 minute later, was already born on March 1st. That's why, during leap years, they have 2 days between their birthdays. A famous scientist went missing. The last time his colleagues saw him, he was in his laboratory. When the police arrived, they found a calendar lying on the man's table. There were several numbers written in pencil at the bottom: 6, 4, 9, 10, 11. The police officers had 5 suspects: David, Sarah, Jason, Betty, and Kevin. Who is behind the scientist's disappearance? It's Jason. The numbers stand for months, and the first letter of each month spells the name of the criminal. So the 6th month is June, and the first letter of June is J. The 4th month is April, and the first letter of April is A. And so on. Smarty pants. So check this out. 3 men are sitting around a table drinking coffee. They all look alike, but only 2 of them are brothers. The third one just doesn't belong at all because he's an alien. Who is it? It's the man sitting on the right. He's got 12 fingers. Yeah, the one sitting in the center has some weird ears, but look at the family portrait on the wall. His dad has the very same ears. Gabrielle is a shop assistant in a department store. Right now, there are 3 people in the fitting rooms. There's Jessica, the woman wearing a green dress, Sean, a man wearing a leather jacket and skinny jeans, and Alex, the man who's trying on a larger-sized pair of jeans that Gabrielle just brought him. One of the clients is an alien. Help Gabrielle figure it out. Who's the alien? It's Alex. Take a closer look at his feet. Only a reptile or an alien would have feet like that. Jessica was walking through the dark woods. Suddenly, she saw a castle. Probably belonged to a witch or something. She was pretty curious and wanted to snoop around, but the door was locked. There was a note with a secret code attached to the gate, but she still needed to decipher it. If you want to enter my castle, crack this code. Can you crack this code? The answer is which. 2 stars after wing means you need to get rid of the last 2 letters. Same goes for the word tea. For the word chair, you need to cut off the last 3 letters. See? Eric went to the supermarket and grabbed 2 oranges and a watermelon. It cost him $6. Helen went to the same supermarket. She grabbed a lemon, an orange, and a watermelon. She paid $8. The oranges, lemons, and watermelons all have different prices. What's more expensive, an orange or a lemon? The lemon's more expensive. Eric had 2 oranges and a watermelon, which cost him $6. The 2 fruits have different prices, so it can't be 2 plus 2 plus 2. The only possible combination is 1 plus 1 plus 4. So the watermelon cost $4. Helen paid $4 for the watermelon and $1 for the orange. So now we know a lemon costs $3. David and Hannah got stranded on a tiny uninhabited island. They had no radio or cell phones, so they couldn't call for help. There were no trees on the island, so they couldn't even make a smoke signal. Suddenly, Hannah noticed a plane circling the sky, searching for them. But it was flying too high. There was no way the pilot could see them. That's when she got a bright idea. Soon after, the plane spotted them and picked them up. What was Hannah's idea? She used rocks to spell out SOS on the sand. 3 turtles are walking one behind the other. The first one says, "There are 2 turtles behind me." The second one says, "There's 1 turtle behind me and another one right in front of me." The third one says, "There are 2 turtles in front of me and 1 more right behind me." Now, how's that possible? Well, they're walking in a circle, very slowly. On a farm, there's a cow, 2 horses, and a cat. Farmer Jack drives up to his farm accompanied by his dog, Fluffy. How many feet are there on the farm? There are only 2. Cows and horses have hooves. Dogs and cats have paws. Only Jack has feet. You find yourself trapped in a medieval castle, far away from civilization. Boy, your vacation isn't turning out as planned. You can't jump out the window because it's too high off the ground. The only tree near the window doesn't look sturdy enough for you to climb on down. However, there are 3 doors, one of which can lead you to freedom. Behind the first door is a fierce fire. Behind the second door are hundreds of venomous snakes. And behind the third door, there's a pitch-black maze. Who knows what surprises are waiting for you there? So, which door should you choose? The third door. You just need to break off a tree branch, turn it into a torch by lighting it in the first room, and go through the maze. At least you'll be able to see where you're going. Maria lives in Paris, and once every 2 weeks she goes to Saint-Tropez to see her grandmother. She bought a ticket from the machine, finished her coffee, and headed to the train. But this weekend, something went wrong. She didn't make it to Saint-Tropez. Why not? She bought the wrong ticket. It says Saint-Tropez, Paris, but she needed Paris, Saint-Tropez. When she tried to get on the train, the conductor immediately told her she had the wrong ticket, and she just didn't have enough time to change it. Emma's a big fan of all things pink. She lives in a 1-story pink house. She has a pink cat, a pink dog, a pink hamster, pink walls, pink doors, and even a pink fridge. What color are her stairs? She doesn't have stairs. She lives in a one-story house, but that house sure gets a lot of stares from the neighbors. Mark got to take part in a TV show where he had to answer some tough questions. He was doing really great and managed to answer 14 out of 15 questions. He was real nervous, only one more question and he'd hit the grand prize, $1 million. What is as large as an elephant but doesn't even weigh an ounce? Mark shouted out an answer and now he's a millionaire. What was his guess? It's shadow. It's as large as an elephant, but it's weightless. Ice melts when you heat it up. But if you heat me, I solidify. You have 7 seconds to figure out what I am. I'm an egg. Hey, don't crack me up. Paulo was on a mission to take some nature pics for his blog. As he was walking through the forest, he fell into a deep pit. He tried to climb out, but when he grabbed onto a rock, it broke off and water started to pour in. The pit was filling up fast. Paulo saw a deflated ball, an empty barrel, and a piece of wooden board. What should he use to get out of the pit? The deflated ball is too small and has a slit in one side. The wooden board wouldn't support his weight. The best option is the empty barrel. It might just keep Paulo afloat. Anthony majored in accounting at the university. His roommates wanted to test his intelligence. They took 3 envelopes and wrote some messages on them. Then, they put the answers to Anthony's upcoming exam in one of the envelopes. Only one envelope has a truthful message written on it. The other 2 are lies. Anthony isn't allowed to open the envelopes before choosing. The first message read, "There are no exam answers here." The second read, "The exam answers are here." And the third message read, "The exam answers aren't in the second envelope." Which envelope has the exam answers in it? The first envelope has the answers in it. The first and second envelopes are lies. The third one's telling the truth. A man was driving along a country road when one of his tires burst. While changing it, he accidentally lost all 4 wheel nuts. The road was deserted and the driver was afraid he'd be stuck out there all night. But an old lady walking by said something to him that changed his luck for the better. What advice did she give him? She told him to remove 1 nut from each of the other wheels and use them for the 4th tire. This way, he could get to the nearest service station. King Archibald had no one who could inherit his throne. That's why he decided to hold a contest to find a worthy successor. He gave a seed to every participant and announced that the person who grew the healthiest and most beautiful plant would become the next king or queen. On the final day of the competition, the king saw hundreds of people with plants of all sizes and shapes, but he ignored them all. He ended up choosing a lady holding a pot with nothing in it but moist dirt. How come she won? The king was a kind and honest man and wanted his heir to have the same qualities. He gave the participants tiny pebbles, not seeds. That's how he figured out the lady was the only honest one there. 4 men are lined up on several steps, all of them facing in the same direction. A brick wall separates the 4th man from the rest. Man 1 can see man 2 and 3. Man 2 can see man 3. All man 3 sees is the wall, and man 4 can't see anyone. They're all wearing hats, and they know that 2 of the hats are white and 2 are black. Which man will be the first to figure out and shout out the color of the hat he's wearing? Obviously, the men aren't allowed to turn around, talk to each other, or take their hats off. It'll be Man 2. Man 3 and Man 4 can't see any other hats. Man 1 sees one black hat and one white hat, so his hat can be either white or black. Man 2 only sees one black hat, but he realizes that if he were also wearing a black hat, Man 1 would know his hat was white. And since Man 1 hasn't said anything, Man 2 must be wearing a white hat. And if you figured all that out, well, my hat's off to you. You board a small plane. Nice. You're the only passenger on board. In a few hours, you'll be sunbathing on the beach, sipping something cold and refreshing. But before that happens, you'll face an epic test to see if you've got the kind of survival skills you need to survive in the wild. Count up your right answers and see what it all means at the end of the video. You fasten your seatbelt and fall asleep just before takeoff. Suddenly, turbulence. You wake up from a dream where you were an octopus in an earthquake. The plane's shaking, your luggage falls out of the overhead. This is serious. You strap on an oxygen mask and notice a flash of lightning outside. A second later, you see another flash. But this time, it's your plane's engine. It's on fire. You're falling. The screeching of ripped metal, screams, and then darkness. You pass out. After a few seconds, you open your eyes and find yourself falling from the sky. Okay, get it together. You unfasten yourself from the chair to stop spinning. The first rays of sun appear over the horizon, and down below, you see a dense forest, a green field, and a small pond. By stretching out your body, you can change direction, you can steer. So, where are you going to land or crash? You have 3 seconds to decide. The best answer is the forest. A fall into water from that high up would hurt the same as falling flat on the ground. But tree branches can soften a fall. You plummet into the forest and lose consciousness. Day 1. Awake. Your whole body aches. Fortunately, you're not injured and you can even walk. Those branches saved your life. Yeah, this is a fairy tale. Now, where to? You don't have a map or a compass. Then suddenly, you hear the sound of a river. You need to choose a direction. Here are the options. Walk in a straight line. Find some moss on a tree and walk in the direction it's growing. Find the river and walk along it. You have 10 seconds to choose. Don't go straight if you don't want to get lost and walk in circles. Navigating by moss? Yeah, I just made that up to mess with you. You should go along the river. It'll lead to a pond or a lake, and there might be people there, or a road, or some signs at least. Day 2. You make it to a lake, but there's no sign of civilization. Now what? Maybe head back up the river? Along the way, you pass out again. You wake up and it's cold, so you drink some river water and try to make a fire. You collect dry twigs, brushwood, birch bark, and moss. Oh, sweet! A gas lighter and a piece of paper in your pocket. What's the best way to start a fire? Put the branches in a pile and pour gasoline on them? Put pieces of paper in the branches and fire them up. Make the branches into a triangle, place birch bark under, and light it. You have 7 seconds, and it's getting really cold. Don't pour that precious gasoline on the branches. It'll burn out too quickly, and those fumes are bad for you. The paper will burn off too fast, and the wood won't catch fire. The triangle of wood will let air pass through it. That's the key. Fire and air, a match made in heaven. Get it? Match? Okay. Day 3. You finally get warm, drink some water, and continue along the river. Uh-oh, you haven't eaten anything for 3 days. Gotta get on it. You don't know how to fish, so you go into the forest to find some food. You have a few choices. Berries, they look delicious and seem pretty juicy. Ants, mushrooms. You have 7 seconds. Choose wisely. Ants are the most delicious and safe thing around. You just can't eat random berries or mushrooms. They can be poisonous. Now, how do you get those ants to march right into your mouth? Hey, I can't hand you all the answers. Day 4. A big bear is blocking your path. You shout to scare it away, but it just looks at you. It's not happy. And now it's coming your way. What should you do? Run as fast as possible because bears are big and clumsy. Climb the nearest tree and sit up there till the bear goes away. Lie down in a fetal position and stay absolutely still. You have 5 seconds to make a choice, and it better be the right one. Bears are fast and can climb trees like they're oversized squirrels. The right decision is to pretend to be asleep. The bear will see that you're not a threat and probably will pass you by. Day 5. Heavy rain starts to fall. You need to hide under a tree, build shelter, and make another fire. Which of these 3 trees should you hide under? You have 7 seconds before you're soaked to the bone. The tree on the left is rotten and might crumble at any moment. There's a snake crawling in the tree on the right. Venomous or not, it's not worth the risk. The tree in the middle is perfect. Day 6. Your stomach starts to rumble. Those ants weren't exactly filling. You decide to catch a fish at all costs. Aha! You could use a piece of your clothing as bait. But where can you find a fishing rope? You have 10 seconds for this one. The answer is your shoelaces. They should be enough if you tie them together. After a long day of fishing, you finally catch one. Aha! Sushi! Day 7. Your journey along the river continues. Up ahead, you see that the river splits into 2 smaller streams. Decision time, left or right. This could mean life or not. You have 7 seconds to decide your fate. Definitely the right stream. There are wolf tracks by the left stream. A pack of hungry wild animals? Yeah, no thanks. Day 8. No way, you're saved! In the distance, you can just make out the roof of a big house. You run over and tragedy. The house is totally abandoned and almost destroyed. But you still decide to go in. In the hallway, you see 3 doors. There's a sign with snakes and spiders on the first door. The second door also has a sign, a pit with spears at the bottom. The third door has a lightning bolt sign on it, probably some high voltage stuff going on in there. Which room should you choose? I'll give you 10 seconds for this one. Go for the third door. The house is abandoned, so the power's probably been out for years. You decide to stay the night, rest, and move on in the morning, even though it's super creepy. Day 9. Time to hit the road again. In the house, you find a piece of broken mirror and grab it just in case. You've been walking for hours, but the river doesn't seem to be leading anywhere. Then you hear the most magical sound. You look up. A helicopter. You need them to see you, but there's no time to start a fire. What can you do? The helicopter's about to fly off. 5 seconds, quick! Grab that piece of mirror. You can reflect the sun off it and try and direct the light at the helicopter. Yeah, you've been spotted, but you can't be saved. No. Thunderclouds come out of nowhere and force the helicopter to fly away. Your best bet? Stay right where you are. That helicopter will come back for you tomorrow, hopefully. Day 10. You wake up in a good mood. The rescuers will be here soon. You take off your shoes to wash your feet in the river. Then, a not-so-magical sound. You hear a growl. 2 wolves are staring down their noses at you. You start running in a total panic. The wolves start to chase you. They're catching up. There are 3 paths up ahead. The first road is covered in hot coals. The second one is littered with rusty nails. The third has broken glass all over it. Which path are you going to choose? You have 2 seconds. The wolves are coming right up behind you. Your best bet is the hot coals. You're running, which means you won't have time to feel any pain. It might get a little hot, but your feet will be safe. The wolves don't dare run through the coals, but they stay nearby. Great, now the rescuers won't know where to find you. Wait a minute, how did these 3 paths appear in the forest anyway? People made them. You're on the right path. Civilization is near. Yeah, food, water, Wi-Fi. Day 11. The helicopter appears in the sky again. You whip out your mirror and go to town. The helicopter starts to fly down, but it can't land on your side of the river. The forest is too dense. The rescuers are waiting for you on the other side. Quick! 3 logs lie across the water. Which one's safe to run across? You have 10 seconds, so think carefully. The first log looks old. The river might carry it away at any moment. The third log, well, it's a crocodile. You need to cross the river on the second log. You're saved. Next stop, a cool ocean breeze. But what you don't know yet is that there's one more test. You'll be swept far out into the ocean after you accidentally fall asleep on a little boat you rented. But that's another story. Now, let's check out how well you did. 0 to 4 points? You better not go camping without an experienced guide. Hey, don't worry, survival in the wild isn't for everyone. 5 to 9 points? Not bad. If you get lost in the forest, you won't panic. But things might get a bit hairy if you have to stay out there for more than a couple of days. 10 to 12 points. Wildlife is your second home. If things get really bad, you could just camp out in the woods forever. Hey, just never mind that part about falling out of the plane without a parachute.
2 couples are about to get married. The hall is full of guests. The bride looks stunning in these long white dresses, and the groom seems to be absolutely happy. All of a sudden, one of the guests noticed there's something wrong with one of the couples. Can you guess what? Mary and Alex have no reflections at all. Look at this decorated mirror behind them. They must be vampires. I wonder how Mary did her makeup. Samantha and Julie wanted to have a peaceful Sunday afternoon. They decided to have a hot air balloon ride and headed to the park. The instructor offered them to choose which one they wanted to ride, a blue one, a green one, or a yellow one. Samantha loves the blue one. No surprise, look at her clothes. And Julie wants to go for the green one. Which girl isn't very attentive? Samantha, the color isn't that important. There are no sandbags. You want to have a safe ride, don't you? In one of the galaxies, there's Planet Pink. There are many people, but few animals. Only hens and roosters live there. They can be of 3 different colors, pink, red, and yellow. Andrew went to that planet to see his friends for the weekend, and while he was walking down the street, he saw 3 bird couples in love. No bird can be with the partner of the same color. Can you guess the color of the partner of the red hen? It's the yellow rooster. The red hen can't go out with the red one, and the pink rooster, as you see, is madly in love with the yellow hen. Emily's aunt has bought a bottle of perfume for her niece's birthday. Sadly, she couldn't keep it because Helga, her sister, is terribly allergic to perfumes. Emily brought it back to her aunt, who bought it for $65. The old lady sold it to someone for $80. Then, suddenly, she remembered she had another niece, so she got it back for $70. Sally, the forgotten niece, turned out to be allergic too, so the auntie had to sell it again for $60. Did she make any profit? Yep, she made $5 and grabbed a large latte for them. A genius invented a watch he thought no one else but him could read. A minute on his watch lasts an hour, and an hour lasts a minute. The watch shows the right time twice a day. Can you read it? It's 5:30, just like it is. The genius changed the hand, placing the hour hand instead of the minute hand, and vice versa. Well, that doesn't seem that genius. Somebody was stealing important documents from the office. The guards didn't see anyone, neither did the secretary. The boss decides to install the security cameras to find out who was doing it. They checked the footage carefully and found out who it was. Can you guess? It's the man in the white shirt. When he went out of the office, he had 2 folders in his hand. At the beginning of the day, he had only one. Jamie wanted to know if his wife cheated on him. He wasn't sure if she actually went on that business trip in Australia. He asked her to send a selfie, which she did. When he saw the photo, he knew exactly that his wife was lying to him. How did he guess? Well, it's January in Canada, and the streets are full of snow. How come there's snow in Australia? It's supposed to be summer there. Everybody knows that an old witch lives in this spooky old house. Nobody really wants to meet her. Mary is in this house right now, but she seems to be alone. How come? Who said witches can't have the name Mary? Back in the day, she was young and beautiful too. Jack has a small shop that sells socks. One day, he decided to attract more people and launched an advertisement. Socks for free. Many people came there, but all the customers had to pay, even though the socks were free. Why? Jack would only give the left sock to his customers. They looked nice, and people wanted to buy it. Who needs only one sock after all? A man was driving his car all the way from New York to LA. At the end of the trip, he discovered that one of his car's tires had been punctured from the very beginning. Still, he reached his destination successfully. How is it possible? The punctured tire was a spare one. You're trapped in a room that's slowly getting filled with water coming from a faucet in the wall. There's no windows in the room and the door is sealed shut. You have a mop and a big bucket. So how are you going to get yourself out of this one? Come on, just turn the faucet off. Now it's better. There are 5 girls in the room. Nicole is talking on the phone, Kimberly is reading, Jessica is playing hide and seek, and Melody is tidying up. What's Sarah doing? Sarah is playing hide and seek with Jessica. 5, 6, 7. 5, 6. Which number is missing? A small hint. It's not 7. You have 7 seconds to do the math. Number 8 is missing. The subsequent number of 567 is 568. Sally works as a barista. This morning, she dropped a cup full of coffee. Luckily, her white shirt wasn't stained, but it took a while to clean up the mess. How come? There were coffee beans in the cup. They ended up right under the counter. Imagine you've just entered a pitch-black room. There's an oil lamp, a newspaper, and some kindling wood inside the room. You only have one match. You have to make a tough choice. What to light first? The oil lamp is definitely a good choice, but it's still incorrect. First of all, you'll need to light the match. After the bank had been robbed, the police found the money in the park among cacti. After the police officers arrested all the suspects, they almost immediately figured out who the bank robber was. Can you do the same? This guy on the left has scratches left by cacti all over his body.